Good evening, good afternoon.
Bonjour tout le monde. Lovely to be here. We're so excited to be invited by Natalie. Thank you so much for letting us take over your Facebook Live tonight, or this afternoon as it is with you. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. So I'm going to try and cram as much information in as possible, but there is so much you can do with our products that we'll probably just skip the surface. So we'll introduce you.
Probably.
Skim.
Hopefully not skip. We'll just skim. We won't skip very much.
We should introduce ourselves. We're just talking here.
Yeah. Well, right. You are. Yeah.
And our dog's decided to join us. He's just under the table here. That's Duke. My name's Kay Halliwell-Sutton, and this is my husband and partner in crime,
Alfie,
and we are Indigo Blue, along with our youngest daughter at the moment. She's working with us during the pandemic, and we have a small team of fantastic workers, and we are initially a stamp company, and we make all of our rubber stamps in Retford here in England, and we've expanded our range to include lots of lovely mixed media products that we couldn't find what we wanted on the market, so we decided to actually research and make them ourselves. So that's basically where we are. So I'm going to go right in and say and start demonstrating or talking about mostly our luscious products and our paint, and obviously our stamps. So what I'd really love you to do is, if you've got any questions whatsoever, just let us know. Alfie's going to be sat here. I'm going to be just there with a different camera on, and he's going to relay any messages or any questions that you might have. So thank you very much for joining us in advance, and I will see you over there in a minute.
So we're already getting some very nice comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Loving the stamps and things, so that's really good. Let me just change camera, and then Kay will be... There we go.
Okay, so what I thought I'd do is I'd just start by flipping through some of my journals and just pointing out one or two things as I go. So this is our translucent paints, the same here. As you can see, you get like a watercolour effect. You can see through these paints to the layer below, which is what I like about how they layer. The matte paints, you can't actually see through to the layer underneath, so it covers up what you've done before, which again is a completely different paint. Now, why did we start making paints when there are lots of fabulous companies out there who already make paint? Well, the simple fact was, at the time you could buy artist paints, which were extremely expensive, and the craft paints were really poor quality. So they were more like children's paints. They had fillers in them, lots of water, not much. Sorry, I'll just bring the mic over. That's probably better for you. And so, and also you needed a paint for every single different job. So you needed maybe 10 different types of paint. So that's why I decided that we should actually make our own paints. So our paints are very, very different because they are multi-purpose. Now, they come in a small pot, so you can get lots of colours for a very small amount. We don't put any fillers in these. We don't put any extra water. It is just loads and loads of pigment and all the acrylic binders and everything that you need to make an acrylic paint. So we don't actually put anything in there that doesn't need to be in there. So basically what you're getting is a really, really strong pigment paint in these.
What's the base?
The base is acrylic. So these are...
It's on a fabric base.
Yes, that's right. Just coming to that. So they are a true multi-craft surface, multi-craft paint. So they go on lots and lots of different surfaces, including it's a true fabric paint. So this is quite an old one, actually. I'll flick through this. This is mostly luscious and metallic paints in here. So the metallic paints work exactly the same way as the matte and the translucent, and they all will go onto fabric. Now you can wash that fabric at 40 degrees with no problem whatsoever. Do you need to fix it at all? No, you don't. You can just allow it to cure naturally over time, because we do actually use them on leather handbags, people use them on shoes, all kinds of jackets, leather jackets, stuff like that you couldn't possibly iron. So
transparents are matte, aren't they? A matte finish.
The transparents are a matte finish, yes. Yeah. So you can see that you can stamp and paint onto fabric as well. So this is actually mixed with our super thick medium. So that actually goes onto fabric as well. But you can see that you can get some lovely results from the bag is well, there's one hung up there, but I have actually got one here. So this is what I did the other day, which is just using the paints, and these are translucent paints, just to get a nice sort of ombre effect here, and this is going to be decorated and stamped on later on. So that's just what I did the other day, and this is one that I was demonstrating as well for a class. They wanted to see how you stamp onto the fabric using the paints, and then we first of all we've put translucent paint on first, then we've actually stamped with in fact this is a translucent paint, it's the quite dark one, I can't remember which one it is, that one, and then we've painted with the matte paints. You can see we've used the matte paints for all these dots because of course they cover up the surface as well. I've actually stamped with the paint here and then added some luscious, this is the lovely sort of sparkly stuff, and the luscious I've actually just mixed with water because I'm not going to be washing this bag, but if you did want to wash the bag you could just mix it with some of our Slap It On range, which is our range of mediums. So this is the one that goes onto fabric and you can wash it, so you can mix your Slap It On with luscious and it will go on there. Obviously all the paints are fabric safe. We actually did decide to put them on a fabric base, so they're really, really stable as well, which is fantastic. So as I say, you've got different finishes to them. You can see here, this is like the matte, which is lovely. These are all matte paints. These are all matte paints. So you can get different results from all of these. This is a translucent. You can see that you can see the line work underneath, which is why it's so good for stamping. These are all sort of bits of luscious. And this is translucent as well. And this here, if you can see, there you go, yeah. So this is all the luscious. Okay, so let me just show you also, talking about the paints. So what I've done here, I've used our stamps to stamp onto fabric, and I've painted the fabric beforehand with matte paint because I wanted to change the colour completely and have that sort of chalky background. And then I've actually gone over the stamping with embroidery floss. I've just embroidered it, so you know you can actually take it further. And again with this, what I've done is I've actually used the paint. Again, what I do is I use the tiniest amount. I always say a grain of rice, add water to it and then start painting, and then you'll see that even though it's really diluted, you still get these gorgeous vibrant colours which are just sumptuous. And you might recognise some of our stamps here. So I've stamped across, and again I've just embroidered that. So I'll just flick through this really quickly. Matte paints, translucents. Look at that, it's just gorgeous, that lovely sort of translucent watercolour effect that you can have acting with lots of water, and you get this beautiful effects there. But again, I love my matte paints as well. So I think you've also got these in your store as well. Those are the Fleurs one, and again I've just stamped various different things onto fabric, all of these, and then just sewn onto those. You've got these little bottles as well in a little stamp. I'll just flick through these. You've got this stamp as well. Okay, so right, let me just show you very, very quickly a little demo about the paints. Okay, so I've got a little paint mat here, that I use all the time because I can just clean it off. And let's start with this magenta colour, which is called Mulberry Bush, and it's one of my favourite colours. Now look how dark that is. That's because we just use loads of pigment, and again, you only want about a grain of rice. Okay, so a tiny weeny bit, get some water on that, and then you can pull out the colour. Look, that colour is just delicious, and even highly watered down, you just get this lovely colour. I think my brush is dirty because it's normally clearer than that. I definitely know my brush is dirty. Okay, so now the next thing is that when you get something like teal for two, again, just a tiny amount of that. Again, pour that out with water, and that is just beautiful. So if you actually mix the two together, you get this beautiful violet colour coming through. So because they're pure pigments that we use in these, and we don't put any added extras in them, you get a lovely colour change there. Now it's normally brighter than that. I'm going to change my brush. Actually, let's just get another brush that is probably a bit cleaner than that one. Okay, so you can see that I always add water to this, and that's because they are so concentrated. Also, the other thing is I would highly recommend that you get a Welsh grey, so a Welsh slate, which is a grey. So this is a translucent grey, and this is what we use to actually tone all of our paints. So for example, if we were to use, let me get some more water on that. This is teal for two. So this is the pure colour, okay? Then if we add a tiny bit of the Welsh slate.
I can't really see that because it's right in the shine of the light.
Okay, let me just, that mix.
Yeah, just bring, that's it.
Okay. Then if I add some of the Welsh slate, you get a deeper tone. So it's still exactly the same colour, but a deeper tone. I'm going to add some water and some more of the Welsh slate to that. And then you go deeper again. So rather than adding black, just add your Welsh slate to it. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. It'll probably go out of focus, but you can see you get a darker tone. I'm going to put loads of Welsh slate in it now because I think it may be a bit subtle for this camera. So let me just go over the top of that. There we go. So you can see how you can actually get a shade colour from your natural colour there, and that happens with all of them as well. And what I'd recommend is a little book. I always have a little book here, and this has got all of my mixes in. So I might even be doing a class and I haven't actually tried a certain colour and thought, oh, that's beautiful, so I'll actually write down exactly what I've done and how I've mixed them. So this has got all of my luscious in and lots of my paints and how I've mixed them and what I've done with them. So that's always a good thing to have on you, a small one. But you can see that mixing them is fantastic. And what I also love is the fact that even highly diluted, let me just get some water on here and a big brush. And I'm just going to paint onto this watercolour card that I've got here.
Just use some different colours.
Yeah, I will do. And I'm going to use some daffodil. So just a tiny weeny bit of daffodil. And I'm mixing that in with the water. And I'm just going to allow that to mix and merge. Look how bright that is. That's beautiful. So when you've got bright colours, you can always tone them down, as I say, with that Welsh slate. But if you want them lovely and bright, then this is what you're going to get. Absolutely gorgeous. And this is mixed with a little bit of Mulberry Bush. Okay, so you're going to get this beautiful apricot-y type colour coming through. If I then mix that with maybe Sargasso Sea, this is a beautiful blue, absolutely gorgeous it is. Just the tiniest amount. Again, add some water and just pull that into there. You get the most amazing emerald green. So you can see that mixing the colours, you're going to just end up with the most beautiful watercolour effects with that. Now that I would actually use as a background. I would let that dry naturally and then I would use that as a background. Let that just mix and merge. And that's going to make a beautiful clear background. And of course you can stamp over the top of that, you can build layers, you can stencil, and you're just going to carry on using those beautiful tones there. Now if you wanted,
how they mix, but they don't want to add grey, they like the brights.
You like the brights. So do I. So do I. I always like the brights. As you notice from all of my stuff, it's all bright colours. And because if you're getting a really beautiful pigment, that's what you want to use. You want to use these gorgeous pigments, you know, and use lovely bright colours, you know, like this. So that is done in exactly the same way, but I've just stamped over the top and you get this bright colour coming through, which is really lovely.
So question about pack colours, are they chosen because they work well with each other?
Yes. Yes, they are chosen like that. So whichever pack you get, you're actually going to have lots to play with there. So don't worry about that. But I do warn you, once you've got one pack, you'll want more, definitely. But that's why we've put them in these small pots, because one, they were lasting far too long. Because they do have a limited shelf life. With them being all natural and eco-friendly, you can only keep them open for a couple of years. So the other pots that we had were far too big, but don't worry, you won't have trouble using them because you'll be like me and using them every single day.
And what kind of ink are you stamping on the paint with?
What kind of ink?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not. I'm actually using the paint itself, so I will show you that.
If you were stamped, so some of the examples you've shown,
Mm-hmm.
probably you've stamped on them.
Oh, okay. So my favourite inks are VersaFine. I use the VersaFine Black and I use a VersaFine Majestic Blue because it just shows up our stamps beautifully. But after that, I really love the VersaFine Clair. In my humble opinion, I think Sukaniko make the best inks. They've been doing it a long time and they show up all the fine detail beautifully. So yeah, I'm a big VersaFine fan. So that's generally what I would do. If I want to stamp with the paint, I can do that as well. Let me just dry this off. I wouldn't recommend this dryer. It is actually an industrial one. So it is a paint stripper. So I wouldn't recommend you go out and buy one of these for your art. But it is very useful when you're demonstrating because it dries things out within seconds rather than minutes.
Karen's asked, do you need to heat set the VersaFine inks over paint?
No, you don't need to heat set the VersaFine inks. I find they're absolutely fine. What I sometimes do is if I'm in a hurry and I want to colour them in, I will actually just blast it with the heat gun just to make sure that that ink is definitely dry. So what can I do here? Okay, let's just grab some stamps here. And I think I will go with this brown, which is called Fallen Leaves. This stamp is one of my favourites, which is called Artist Tools, and you do have that in store. And I think we might put him over there. So even on a slightly rough watercolour card, it stamps beautifully and you get such a nice detail coming through. Even the brushes, I'm being really good at actually wiping my stamps normally. I hardly do. So I love this stamp. It's absolutely beautiful. And I did actually do one earlier. So Do you want me to do that in paint or luscious?
Just do paint and then we'll move on.
Okay, okay, I will do that in paint. So I think what I might do is, seeing as I've got my teal out, one of my favourite colours, so I'm going to just, now what I've done with this one is, because I am a lazy artist, I have stamped and clear embossed it just with our superfine embossing powder. I'm sure you've probably got a superfine embossing powder in the store. So I'm just going to come in, and I think I'm going to do the whole of this just so that it's quick, because I'm sure you don't want to actually watch me colouring for the next 20 minutes. Okay, and we'll come in with some daffodil on here. And because we've got this colour in the background, I'm just going to give this a little bit of colour on here. And then I am going to use the grey. Oops, I nearly put that in my drink. I don't know why I always put my drink on the right hand side, because it's always going to get a paintbrush in it. But don't worry if that happens, because it is non-toxic and it is eco-friendly, and you can put it down the sink. So we're always very conscious. No, I definitely wouldn't drink it. That's not going to be good for your health. Okay, so I'm just putting a little bit of shadow just on the edge there, and I will repeat that round here, I think, just to give me a little bit of shade. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to plan this today. It's been a little bit manic this week, but it's so lovely to actually be able to sit here and play with you.
So quite a few people have put paintbrushes in their tea.
I bet they have. Yeah. Okay, so I think that would look really quite nice like that. And then let's just cover up some of my fingerprints with some of now I have to say, Natalie, you have chosen some of my all-time favourite little collector's edition stamps, because I just adore these, and you have very good taste, because I always have these on my desk. The Matrix, the Grunge Numbers, the alphabet, everything like that. Let me just check this. As you can see, I put a great big arrow on the back of some of my stamps, because I have been known to put them in the wrong place. So I think what we might do is we might use, let's try a little bit of this green, which is called Verdant.
Everyone agrees with you that Natalie has excellent taste.
She has. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the Matrix, which is this one here. It's number 49. We started doing the collector's editions because, you know, people would say, oh, I'd like this stamp, but I'd like maybe a smaller one. Or it might be that I really like a design, but I only want just a little bit going on there. And so we started doing this, and we release 12 a year, one for every month of the year. And see, look, Numbers, Alpha, Grunge Numbers, all my favourites. So thanks, Natalie. It's making my demo really, really enjoyable. But I have to say, I am very selfish. We don't tend to make any stamps that we don't actually like, do we, Alfie? No, it's true. We're not a company that says what's the latest trend. We just go with what we love. So let me just see about this. So I'm stamping off 2 or 3 times, and I always have some scrap paper underneath just to see what it looks like before I go for it. So that was number 4, which is just simply called Numbers. And this is Grunge Numbers, which is a huge favourite. Oh, a little tip for you. I've had some of my stamps since the beginning, obviously, so I've had them like 10 years. Now, I do abuse my stamps quite a lot, and they have this cling on, which is great, but can you see how filthy that is? And sometimes, you know, I chuck them in a bucket of water to wash them and I forget about them, and the cling tends to go from them. So all you need to do is get a little bit of our Flitter glue, which we use for the flake and glitter, and put a tiny little bit of that on the back, let it go clear, and then it will be nice and clingy again. So I think we'll try, this is called Summertime, and let's just try mixing that with a little bit of this, what's it called, Warm Breeze. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, so not that hot on that. So I'll just stick with the Summertime. But this is again a lovely, lovely stamp. So let's try that here. That's nice because it echoes that colour really rather well, doesn't it? So I probably need a little bit of brown in here just to offset this. So again, let's put that there. Let's have a little bit down there. So that's Grunge Numbers number 36 and Dots 24, which again is such a useful, lovely stamp. And again, you can use these on big projects as well. They look really, really cool. So what should I go for here? Let's get a little bit more of the verdant green in there. It's quite a nice sort of zesty green. I think we'll have full, there we go. Okay, I just need to cover up that dirty handprint. Let's go for some of the squares. So these are just hand-drawn squares, and it just will fit so nicely on there. So let's have that because it will look like an extension of this colour here. Yeah, that's good. Okay, right, stop playing, Kay, and let's just crack on with showing you some other lovely stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to, whoops, just going to glue this on with some of our Grab and Go, which is a really great acrylic base glue. So I developed this because I couldn't find a really good glue for MDF building. So I probably would do a few splatters and things on there. Our gesso is famous for this. We send a lot of it to artists, and it's actually got titanium white in it, which as you know is more expensive than what they normally make gesso out of. So it means that you can actually mix it with your paints and create a chalk paint with them. So that, I mean, your translucent paints. So let me just, now I haven't got an apron on tonight, so I'm just trying to be careful. Alfie's tutting because it's going all over my desk rather than on there. And I wonder sometimes why the dog ends up with a white streak. It wasn't me, honest, it wasn't me. Unfortunately, he's a black dog, so so yeah. Okay, so that's a little bit about our translucent paints. So let me just wipe this gesso off everything, move that out of the way, and I'm going to show you some examples of the Luscious, which are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So there you go with that one. Okay, so let me show you what you can do with the Luscious.
just
Oh.
move that paint out of the way.
Yeah, could you give it a wipe over for me, darling? Thank you. Sorry, my chair is very, very squeaky. Just before I move on, these are matte colours. So you can see how you can get... I have actually put some varnish on here, some glossy, slapped on. So you can get a really nice grungy look if that's what you're after. So these are just bits and bats that I just fill up.
Just slower.
Oh.
People can't see anything.
Sorry. These are just little prayer books that I saved from going into a skip because the church was having a clear out, and they can't recycle these. This is luscious. So my friend who's a verger saved them for me, and so I like to put them to use for little tiny bits of projects. If I've only got half an hour or so just to have a bit of a play, and I've got some scraps of stuff on my desk, that's what I'll probably end up playing with. So these go back years actually, and sometimes I'll just go back and check that they've been filled in. Anyway, so that's those, but I wanted to really show you this is done all with Luscious. So this is painted, thank you. This is actually painted onto grey board, and this is painted with all different Luscious. Obviously I've gone for more of the coppery brass tones, and afterwards it's been this side has been coated with our diamond resin and this side hasn't, so you can see the difference between the two. Okay, so that's that one.
Just show what's inside.
I want to see what's inside. Just a few little bits really. I showed that one earlier. I don't think you've got him in your store. And these were just cut-offs from, and I thought, well, I'll make a page out of it. The same with these. These are drips from the Luscious. So if I move that up, you can see. I like making drips. You'll see that quite a lot. Okay, so also I like using Luscious on 3D work. So I've actually got a box that I do a class with, and this is just layering up. So there's plastic on here, there's metal, there's grey board, there's all sorts on here, bits of metal, and it's all stuck on with our super thick gel medium, which is called Slap It On Thick, and it makes it quite solid. And then I've actually gessoed this. I gesso it just so that it's all one colour basically, and I've gone for black because then I wanted these darker colours rather than really bright colours. So I've actually just decorated this with the Luscious mixed with water. That's all I've done, and the binder in it will adhere to the gesso. I've actually just then, because when I got my Vivid sprays, I just gave it a couple of sprays. So this sort of colour here, this sort of violet-y colour, and this green colour here, these are the Vivids on top of the Luscious, but you can see you get such a beautiful sheen and shimmer with these, and you can see it's just a flat matte black gesso that I put over that.
Veronique likes that.
Yeah, I really like this, and I keep thinking, what am I going to do with it? I'll put it onto the front of a journal, I think, but I still haven't done it yet. This is how you can enhance some rice paper. So this is some rice paper that we had in the past. And we still have actually, yeah, that we get it from Italy. And I just wanted to demonstrate how you can enhance and pick up various elements from the rice paper. So this comes as is with these lovely colours on and everything like that, but I've just put some of the Luscious into a hair, made these circles. I've just stamped a few circles and then just coloured in some different areas so that you get this really lovely effect. So that's just another use for them, and again that's very, very simply using the Luscious with water to paint with. But you can also use it with polymer clay and paper clay.
So this was actually stamped into with all of our stamps. We then baked it in the oven, and then afterwards we actually painted it with our Luscious. So we actually I think, yeah, we did actually paint some of it before it went in the oven, just because it was slightly, it's not damp, but it's tacky, so it will adhere the Luscious powder to it, so you can get some really lovely effects with that. So that is, sorry, the glass is reflecting anything, but you can see that even in moulds, I love using it with moulds. In fact, let me just grab behind me, these I've just done recently.
Well, that May has asked, what's the diamond resin?
The diamond resin is a resin that we have ourselves. We have it manufactured by a really reputable company, and they make our diamond resin for us, and it's the jeweler's grade diamond resin. In fact, I've put everything around there, Alfie, in a big box. And it's actually jewellery grade, so you can see with these moulds, these Yuri moulds are incredibly fine detail, and it picks up all of the detail for you. I've actually mixed the Luscious with the resin before I've poured it in, and if you don't really mix it in, it can look like opals. It's absolutely gorgeous. Sorry, this hasn't got a label on it, but this is our resin, our diamond resin. It is really easy to use. Let me just get rid of this. Thanks, darling. It's really easy to use. It's just a ratio of 1 to 1. The working time is really good. If your room is nice and warm, then your working time can be over an hour. If it's very cold, it's going to be much shorter, maybe 30 minutes. But a little goes a long way. It's really easy to use. I don't have any problems with bubbles. It's self-leveling. You can get nice domes with it. You can cover different projects with them. This is polymer clay that I dusted with Luscious before I baked it, and then I've actually put the resin on top afterwards, and you get a nice, it gives it a nice dome, and you get that gorgeous crystal clear look to it. This is our lovely Gilding Flake with Flitter glue. I've actually used it on paper because I wanted to do a wreath. I've got hundreds of these. Do a wreath for outside, so the resin will actually protect the paper. And this is what I'm doing at present. These are being prepared for a TV show that I've got on the 11th. So these are geodes that I make, and this is all done with Luscious. And you can see, because the pigment is so pure, you get the most beautiful, beautiful colours coming through. And it's pigment mixed with mica, mixed with binder, with nothing else added. No fillers, no extenders, nothing to make it cheaper. It's all really good quality ingredients, which is what we always do with all of our products. So anyway, that was the diamond resin.
So Natalie's asked, is the resin available to ship internationally? Yes, we can supply you with the resin, Natalie.
Yes, we can, because it has actually got a safety nozzle on as well, so it's okay to ship.
Does it dry white or clear?
Clear. It dries clear, crystal clear. But it's fantastic for these geodes, and the detail that you get from it. A lot of resins, they don't give that level of detail, you see, but I just adore it. I've used it for many years, and it's just fantastic. I could just do a whole class on this. I use it for jewellery, for making little bottles, all sorts.
Do we sell the moulds? We do sell the moulds, Nancy, but you might be better going direct to Zuri.
Yes.
For some of the moulds that Kay showed you.
Yeah, Natalie can get them in from Zuri, because obviously it's an American company, so we're obviously using we're the distributor in the UK for Zuri. So yeah, Natalie, you can go direct to them, I'm sure.
Okay, back to Luscious.
Okay, back to Luscious. So, what is it about Luscious that's different? Because the first thing that people will say who've been in the industry a long time, saying, oh, it's a mica powder, you know, we've seen those for donkey's years. Well, yes, they are a mica powder, but they're not just a mica powder. Let me just get these out. Okay, so what we've done is we have completely revitalized the whole idea of powders, because what we've done is we've taken pigment and we've put the pigment in first. Then we've added the mica powder, which gives us the gloss or the twinkle or whatever we want, and then we put a binder in, and then we don't put anything else in. We don't put any fillers in, anything to bulk it out. You're just paying for the good stuff, and it's a really big pot, because normally, as you know, you'd probably pay about $5 for a 5ml one, whereas this is 25ml, so you've got loads to play with. And we've got lots of duotones as well. So like this is Cherry Lips, so you will get a colour shift with it with Fuchsia Blue. So this, Fuchsia Blue rather than Cherry Lips. That's a duotone as well. So that will shine blue and pink, and lots of them are duotones. So you've got loads of lovely selections for them. Now, the first thing that people tend to do with it is, this is a Tim Holtz palette. Which I'm sure Natalie's got in the store already, or she can get them in for you. And I find this is the easiest way of actually utilising, where's that? I've got a cutout here of utilising these. So let me just grab a colour. Bear with, I've got that many things on my desk at the moment. So I believe this is Rapunzel. Okay, let's go for right. So now I actually need some clean water, because you don't want to be using dirty water, especially if you've used gesso, because the dirty water will actually coat all of the shiny particles and dull your Luscious, which you don't want. So clean water, and then I would actually tap this before you open it, because they are quite full unless they've settled in transit, and just to tap down the pigment. Now we've actually used really fine pigments, so these are ground right down to give you lots in there. So what I've done, I've actually put my brush into water, I then put it straight into the powder and then into the palette. And then all you need to do is just work it in really slowly, otherwise it goes everywhere. And warm water, even though I've got cold water here, but warm water is better. And this one is another duotone, and this has got our latest ingredient in, which is brand new to the market, and it's that extra sort of unicorn sparkle. It's just really beautiful. So I would actually mix in enough water to make this about single cream.
Don't know the translation of that.
I don't know the translation of that, but but so that it coats your brush quite nicely without dripping off. So thick enough that you're going to get a good colour rendition, but not too thin that you're not going to see anything. And you want it not too thick so that it will not cover all the lines. So what I've got here is I've got our beautiful Ziori owl, and he is gorgeous. Now, as you probably have guessed, we have a lovely collaboration. We like to collaborate with other companies, because we all share, you know, we all use different companies' products, we all use different stamps from different companies, we don't stick with the same thing. So it's lovely to actually collaborate with Ziori, and they've got these fantastic molds, and what we do is we take their designs and we manufacture their stamps for them. So you will find that you'll have a beautiful Ziori mold, and then you've got a matching stamp. They're not exactly the same size. Don't think that they are, because they're quite different. But what I've done here is I've actually stamped and clear embossed him, because then I don't have to worry about all of the black lines at all, and then I can just go straight over all of the lines, and then it will resist the luscious that's mixed with water. And of course it's got a binder in, so it's not going to come off, it's not going to wipe off or anything like that, and then you can just paint to your heart's content.
Yeah, what's that one called? I can't remember. The Ziori one.
The Ziori one. He is here. They're all here, darling. There he is, Owl Tails.
Owl Tails, yeah.
Now I'll bring that out so you can see it. Oh, I can't, it's just stuck in. Okay, so this is Owl Tails, and you can see I've just put some extra leaves and acorn here because I have room. And this beautiful shape here comes from his chest, which is there, and you've got two owls, just slightly different sizes. So that is and again, Natalie's got that in store ready for you.
So Natalie's asked about what did you add to the resin to make it black, but that's not actually the resin, is it?
This is not resin. This is the stamp. This is not a mould. This is actually a stamp that I've stamped onto black card, and then I've used the superfine embossing glaze over the top. But you can see how fantastic this looks with black card, and it just goes to prove the amount of pigment in the mica, in the luscious, along with the mica, because you have a really good coverage.
Just explain about the palette as well.
Okay, so the palette is really useful because we've mixed the luscious with water, therefore it's going to be reconstitutionable. That's not even a word.
No.
So you can reconstitute it. When it's dried out, all you have to do is just add water, and all I do is when I get my palette out, I just spray it with water basically, and that will help reconstitute it. And then you can just work your way into it, and then you've got basically watercolours made out of luscious, so that's another thing you can use it for. So as you can see, I can just carry on painting this, and he's just so handsome, he's gorgeous. So you can see he's lovely, really lovely. So the colours I've been using are Rapunzel Gold, which is part of your Fairy Tales set. I've used Pied Piper Green, which is part of your Fairy Tales set. And I've just used a bit of Dragon's Eye, which is part of your Jam and Kisses set.
So Natalie's asked, should we leave the colours to dry before closing the palette?
Yes, you can. But I tend to keep mine in the drawer anyway, or if I'm planning to carry on the next morning, I actually just close it while it's wet because it'll still be damp the next morning. So it just depends on what you want to do basically. Now this is such a gorgeous colour. This is a lovely juicy colour called Raspberry Jam, and it's part of the Jam and Kisses set as well. So I'm rushing this actually, I shouldn't rush it. So I think that's enough to just show you how you can get a nice sort of effect from that. And this is exactly the same, but this is on white embossing powder.
Have you got one just to show just the actual part, just so people know?
Oh yes, yes, of course. So here you go. These are the size of the pots.
No, I meant the actual embossing glaze.
Oh, the embossing glaze. So this is the superfine embossing glaze. It's 60 mil, so it's a huge amount. And the reason for that is I hate it when you get piddling little pots and you tip it over and you've got a big image and you sort of quickly, you know, trying to get it to cover all areas. And I thought, well, I'll give you just, you know, a triple size pot, and then, you know, you can just chuck it all over. And of course you never actually use very much because it's so ultra fine. It will go into even the smallest, finest 0.2 line. So it will last you ages. I think we spill more than we actually use. So yes, super fine embossing glaze, and that's 60 mil. So it's a really good value price there.
Isn't that with the White Cliffs of Dover?
This white one is...
That's what I meant. Actually.
Oh, sorry, Alfie. I didn't understand what you were talking about. So that is the clear one that I've just shown you. This white one here is White Cliffs of Dover. So again, this is incredibly fine powder. Let me just open that for you. So you can see it's really, really fine. And again, we do that so that it shows up all those teeny tiny lines as well. So we have a set of White Cliffs of Dover, which of course is white. We have Hi Ho Silver, which is silver. Copper Load of That, which is obviously copper. And we have Glam Rock Gold, which is obviously gold. And they're all really, really super fine. So those are the ones. Again, you get 20 mil in these. So there's loads in that, absolutely loads. It's going to take you a while to use all of that. Okay, so let me just clean these up. So I just want to show you the so other uses. Yes, other uses for your luscious. What? Going off at tangents. Okay, so what I've done here is I have actually mixed some of our clear superfine embossing glaze, which is a clear embossing powder, and I've mixed it with some of the luscious. I've actually used raspberry jam. Okay, so you can actually make your own embossing powders, but I have to tell you that because there's so much pigment in here, when you put this onto a white piece of card, so you're stamping and wanting embossing, it will actually leave behind some residue because of the amount of pigment in. Look at that, you see? So you have to be really aware of that. So I can brush that off, but you can still see a little bit of pigment. So it's great to use on a black card, but on white card you've just got to be aware of that. Some of the lighter colours won't leave as much of a pigment trail, but you need to know that. So what I've done is I've used the raspberry jam, luscious, along with the clear superfine embossing glaze. So you can make your own embossing powders. I've also made my own wax as well. So if you like using gilding wax,
Julie's said, so I need the palette and all the colours, oh, and the powder.
yes.
Yeah, that's what they thought you said.
Yeah. You do. I have to say, the reason why we have so many colours is it is incredibly popular. When people get them and they realise how many different things you can do with them, yes, they always come back for more. So you can probably tell that's why I've got like at least 3 palettes. So sorry about that. But yes, you will love them too. So I've also mixed some of my luscious. I've probably used one of the blues. I think this is actually just called blue. Okay, and I've just used that with a little bit of wax. So you can use like a beeswax. Now, I have to confess that I was away demonstrating and I mentioned it to somebody and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any wax with me. So at lunchtime, the only shop I could find had some hair wax in it. So I actually bought a little bit of hair wax, and yes, it does actually work. You know, like a men's hair wax. It actually smells really nice. So a furniture polish, if you've got some furniture polish, like a wax base,
So
or a hair wax.
Natalie's just making sure, so you can mix luscious with the clear powder to make your own embossing powder.
You can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And then, as I say, you can use
with hair wax to make your own
gilding wax, which is lovely, isn't it? So you still get that lovely sort of sheen. It's not as sparkly because of the wax, but it's just beautiful. It's just really beautiful. And if you use hair wax, it smells lovely as well. But I'd probably layer that with lots of other different colours as well. I'd probably, you know, get some you know, quail on there or some copper. And I've just bought these really tiny little mixing bottles, so you're not mixing too much at one time. So again, with your embossing glaze, just get tiny little ones like this that I'm sure you can pick up at your local shop. Just trying to think, going through my list now, what else you can use them for. Oh yes, so you can mix them with your paper clay, but if the paper clay is white, obviously you're just going to get the colour, you're not going to get the sheen. So what I tend to do is, like I showed you before, I will actually make roll the clay out, stamp into it, and before I bake it, I actually just dust it with the luscious. And then, I mean, afterwards I've actually put some diamond resin on, but it looks fantastic because it just really shines through, so it looks fantastic.
Did you mention mixing it with resin?
Yeah, I did say you can mix it with resin. Yeah, okay. So that's how I've managed to do all of these. So all of these are just a clear resin or diamond resin mixed with our luscious and then poured in, and it looks amazing. I've used bubblegum purple, and I think I've probably used, I think it was Gretel that I used as well, and I've used some of our what are called rocks, which are like eco-friendly glass pieces. They're not plastic, they're glass. So it's fantastic in your resin. I mean, all the colour has just come from the luscious. So that's why they're popular. It's because if you, I'm a crafter, so I don't mind paying for nice quality product as long as it works, as long as it is actually going to be good quality. What I can't stand is paying money for something and it doesn't do what it says on the tip. So
Natalie's just asked how long for the resin to dry.
Oh right, that's a really good question. So it is a chemical reaction, and it fully cures in 3 days, but I can actually do a second pour on top of it after an hour. So if I wanted to layer it up, I would leave it an hour or two before the second pour. And what I always tend to do is the day after, which is 12 hours later. Oh, thanks, darling. I will actually demold it if you want, because then you can actually bend it if you wanted to bend it round a bottle or a vase, or shape it onto a canvas. This I did last night, and isn't that gorgeous? That's beautiful. So
that's Azuri mould.
This is Azuri mould. This is I don't know what it's called, but it'll be
magic mushrooms.
It'll be called magic mushrooms or something like that. I don't know.
It's not magic. Enchanted. I think.
Enchanted mushrooms. I think magic mushrooms sounds better. But you can see that the mould is matte. So the resin that comes out of it is also going to be matte. Now you've got the colour of the luscious on there. So what I do now is I actually put that onto my paint mat, because my paint mat is non-stick. It's not heat resistant, but it's non-stick. And then when I mix up my next batch of resin, I use a child's cheap paintbrush just to paint a little bit of resin over the top, and then that will give me that really, really high sheen.
So
you see. And also I did, I liked doing paint pouring, you know, with our matte paints. So I actually paint poured over a little tea light candle holder, and it was very matte. It was very nice, but it didn't work for me. So I actually painted this with a layer of the diamond resin as well. I waited until the diamond resin was quite thick, so it was about an hour and 15 minutes after I'd stirred it, and it was getting thick, so that's great, that's perfect. And then I painted a very thin layer on this and then put it down, like that, so that you don't want it too thin that it's all going to run off. But it looks fabulous, doesn't it? And the shine brings out the colour so well. It really does. So that's what I will do with this. I will give this another coat. I'll probably put a little bit more luscious on it, and I'll give it another coat. I missed out some bits there, and I wasn't quite sure what this was, but it's obviously a slug. I was like, I couldn't figure out what it was. So I'll put another coat on there to give it that lovely shine. Or I can put it back in the mould and make it a bit deeper, but that's what I'm going to do with that. Okay, I think that's such a lot of information all in one foul swoop, but it gives you a little bit. I'm going to come back to the face, yeah. I think it gives you a little bit. Let me turn the mic round as well so you can hear us both. I think it gives you a snatch of some of the things that you can do with our products. The best thing to do is either invite me back and I'll do some concentrated demos. So I'll just do demos on luscious, or I'll just do demos on one particular area. Or you can actually look on our website. Now, January this year, way back in January, I did some Facebook Lives, and there were 4 Facebook Lives just on luscious. That's all I did for 4 hours. So there's 4 different ones. Don't worry, you can speed through them.
But they're on YouTube. They're on our YouTube channel as well, which
is Indigo Blue Tube. So you can have a look at those as well at your leisure. So you might get a little bit confused because we've just gone from one to the other to the other to the other, and I think sometimes it's a little bit of an information overload. So don't worry, if you've got any questions you can always email us as well. We're always available to answer your emails, and as I say, look at our YouTube channel because there'll be lots and lots of information on there on different aspects of our products, and hopefully maybe Natalie will invite us back and we can show you some more concentrated demonstrations. But we're absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you so much for your support, Natalie. We really appreciate you taking all of our products into your beautiful store, and it's lovely to meet your customers. So thank you all so much for watching. And have you got any final questions for us?
They're just saying thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, everybody. So it's good night from me.
Well, yeah, good night, but good afternoon for you.
It's good afternoon for you. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.